Chair and members of the committee, thank you for the invitation to appear before you today on behalf of the Alliance of Birth Mothers Campaigning for Justice. My name is Anna Kavanagh and I'm co-founder and convener to the Alliance. I'm joined by our Secretary Dr Finbar Markey and by our lead researcher Michelle Monaghan. We welcome the opportunity your committee is giving us to discuss the difficulties with Tusla experienced by the mothers that we represent. The Alliance of Birth Mothers Campaigning for Justice was set up in June 2019 and is currently Ireland's largest non-Tusla funded, non-state funded advocacy group for mothers in difficulties with Tusla, the Gardaí and the Family Court. In fact, we receive no funding. We work in a voluntary capacity and the occasional expenses that we incur are met entirely out of our own pockets. We are currently going through a shameful period in Irish history where women and children who are being abused by the state are silenced by the in-camera rule operating in the family court that denies them their constitutional right to speak out about what is happening to them. We are their voice here today, to articulate their grievances and their hope of reforms that will give them the justice they are currently denied. The dysfunction in Tusla that is leading to the failure to protect some of the children that they have taken into state care is hiding in plain sight. Among the headlines and the bylines from this year alone, the Irish Examiner, the 28th of May, Tusla reports doubling of children in state care who may have been targeted for sexual exploitation. The Irish Times, May 27th. When it comes to the state's most vulnerable children, we don't seem to learn from our failures. And that is an opinion piece that appeared in the Irish Times from Dr. Carol Corter, who is the director of the Child Law Project. The Irish Examiner, the 21st of May. It's taken 7 to 8 years for child sexual abuse cases to get to court because of ongoing problems in sharing data between the Gardaí and Tusla. The front page of the Irish Independent on the 21st of May. Children held in care for twice as long as the legal limit. RTE, the 9th of May. Babies in state care placed in private unregulated settings. The Irish Examiner, the 28th of April, almost 30 children in state care have disappeared this year, with the whereabouts of 22 still unknown. The Limerick Post, the 13th of April, Tusla is taking 2 years to investigate sexual abuse. Irish Times, the 25th of March, internal Tusla documents reveals cases of children in emergency accommodation contracting scabies and living in rooms with bed bugs. The Irish Times, the 27th of March. Why are we still so badly failing children in care? This is another opinion piece in the Irish Times from Dr. Carol Coulter. The Irish Times, the 25th of March. Children in emergency state care at risk of abuse. The Irish Mail, the 3rd of March. The state spent 70 million on unsuitable housing for children in care. The Irish Mail, the 1st of March. Tusla spent 14 million placing children with unvetted firms. The Irish Examiner, the 28th of February. A Garda investigation is underway into allegations Tusla placed vulnerable children into unregulated emergency accommodation. The Irish Examiner, the 22nd of January. Unvetted care workers subcontracted by Tusla were given access to vulnerable children at risk of abuse. The Irish Independent, the 15th of January. Baby in foster care not seen by social workers for 10 months due to staff pressures, inspectors reveal. And that referred to a HICWA report. Irish Independent, the 15th of January. Judges rage over boy 15 years old in care who hadn't had even 1 day of school since primary. Irish Times, the 8th of January. Tusla delays may have put children at risk. HICWA fines. This is just a sample of headlines, and together they paint a grim picture of the dysfunction in the Child and Family Agency, which Finbar will appraise further. We would like to acknowledge the work of the reporters who have been shining a spotlight on Tusla since it began operating just over 10 years ago, including Kitty Holland, Debbie McCann and Jack Power, to name but a few. There was great expectation that in taking over the role of child welfare and protection from the HSE, Tusla would end the dysfunction in the system stretching back several decades. Alas, this hasn't materialised, and Michelle is going to elaborate on this. The message I want to deliver to you here today from the mothers on whose behalf we are speaking is that behind these headlines are heartbroken mothers, battered and bruised by the agents of the state who are failing to protect them and their children. The great scandal of our time is the failure to hold Tusla to account for its failure to protect children it has taken into state care from sexual abuse and sexual exploitation. Tusla does not have a centralised database on the number of children in state care that go missing, nor does it have a centralised database on the number of babies a few days old that it takes into state care. Last year, I interviewed 20 mothers at length about their experience of Tusla and got 20 ladies to do the voiceovers to protect their anonymity for a podcast series called Justice for Birth Mothers. The headlines above refer to children missing from state care and the failure to protect children in state care from sexual abuse. This is what Muriel, not her real name, told me. My daughter went missing out of foster care. I got a tip-off that she was missing and that she was being sexually abused in the foster home, and Tusla was notified and the guards knew about it. I was not notified that my daughter was missing out of the foster home. It was an anonymous call that I got from a mother from the school because videos of my daughter had gone around the school on Snapchat. She was found in a very isolated rural area miles away from the foster home, and there was no bus link there, so she would have had to have been brought there in a car. I was told by Tusla she had a boyfriend. She went there to see a boy, but my daughter was just 13 years old at the time. So someone who can drive with a 13-year-old, to me, is an adult man with a vulnerable child. There was absolutely no investigation done. A male Tusla social worker picked her up and drove her back to the foster home. When I raised this issue in court, the male Tusla social worker gave evidence to the judge, which the judge accepted, that she didn't want to talk about the incident. I was forbidden then by the judge to ask any questions. In summary, Tusla's failure to protect children it takes into state care is hiding in plain sight, captured by mainstream headlines on an almost daily basis. Behind these headlines are mothers like Muriel and their children, silenced by the in-camera rule, unable to speak out about the effects of Tusla's failures on them and their children. There's an unbroken chain of state abuse of mothers and children that did not end with the closure of the last mother and baby home. The state abuse of mothers and children is ongoing. We excuse past generations for their failure to speak out at the time because it was generally not fully known what was happening. Future generations will never forgive us if we don't bring an immediate end to the state abuse of mothers and children, because we know and we appear to be doing very little to halt it. It's beyond my level of competency to tell you what the solution is. My purpose coming before you today is to articulate the cries of the mothers that we represent in the Alliance of Birth Mothers Campaigning for Justice, and appeal to your better natures to act immediately to bring about an end to this injustice. Silence is complicity. To conclude, we welcome any questions that the committee may have for us. And I now hand you over to Finbar.